When my daughter mocked me in front of her wedding guests, I felt the room shift before I even turned my head. It was her voice, bright, sharp, careless in a way only Celeste could manage. Mom, seriously, you showed up in that people will think you wandered in from the street. A few guests laughed under their breath. Others looked away. Pretending not to hear, Verena Brooks, the groom's mother, didn't bother to hide her smirk. She tilted her chin and whispered to the woman beside her, "Some families really do not understand presentation." I stood there in my simple navy dress, holding the small gift bag I had spent the entire morning choosing. My name is Eudora Hale. I am 71 years old, and I have weathered far harsher storms than a ballroom full of strangers. But hearing my daughter speak to me like that on her wedding day still landed like a handprint across my chest. Celeste didn't notice. She had already turned back toward her friends, laughing as if I had never been part of her life at all. I let the humiliation settle. Steady and cold, speaking now would only feed the performance she had created. Then the ballroom doors opened again. General Manager Marvin Chen crossed the floor with an urgency that did not match the music playing in the background. His eyes moved past the guests, past Verena, and landed directly on me. He stopped 2 steps away, straightened his jacket, and spoke loudly enough for the entire room to hear. "Ms. Hale," he said, "as the owner of this hotel and the parent company your daughter works for, we need your approval immediately." Silence spread like a wave. Even the string quartet faltered. Celeste's smile dropped. Verena froze. Adrian, the groom, looked from Marvin to me as if trying to rewrite everything he thought he understood. I breathed in slowly. They had no idea. She didn't know who she was humiliating, but she was about to learn it. The hard way. And earlier that evening, the path to this moment had already begun to unfold. Earlier that afternoon, my phone rang while I was easing my hair into place. Celeste's name lit the screen, and before I even answered, I felt the tension settle in my shoulders. "Mom," she said, breathless, "I need to go over a few things before tonight." Her voice had that clipped edge she used when she was preparing to be embarrassed by me. I stayed quiet and let her continue. "First, wear something neutral. Beige, navy, black. Nothing too bold." She exhaled sharply. "And please do not talk too much about, the past. People will ask questions. Just keep things simple. All right?" I held the phone between my cheek and shoulder and folded the dress I had originally planned to wear. The soft floral one she used to love when she was little. "Celeste," I murmured, "I know how to behave at your wedding. That's not the issue," she snapped. "Just do not make it awkward." Her words landed harder than she intended. But she did not notice. She never did when she slipped into that polished, curated version of herself. Before I could respond, she added, "I have to go. Adrian's mother wants me to finalize the seating chart. Please just follow the plan tonight." Then the line went dead. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding the quiet phone in my hand. My daughter had grown up in a 2-room apartment off Meeting Street, where the walls were thin and the summers smelled of sea salt and fried dough from the market. She used to run into my arms after school, breathless with stories. She used to beg me to braid her hair before my night shift. Back then, I cleaned hotel bathrooms to keep us afloat. I worked double shifts, scrubbed tile floors, folded sheets until my hands cracked. She knew all of that. She saw it. Somewhere between those years and this wedding, she traded our truth for something shinier, something safer, something she thought made her worth more. I set the phone down and chose the navy dress. It was simple, neutral, acceptable. But the girl who once reached for my hand no longer recognized where she came from. And the space between us had widened long before the ceremony began. By the time I arrived at the hotel that afternoon, the lobby buzzed with wedding staff moving in tight circles. I kept to the side, hoping to slip into the reception hall without drawing attention. Celeste's voice carried before I even reached the doorway. "I just need everything perfect tonight," she said. "I cannot have any surprises." Harlan Ricks, her department director, stood beside her in a tailored suit. "You seem tense," he said lightly. "Is something wrong?" "My mom," Celeste muttered. "I hope she does not embarrass me today." She exhaled sharply and added, "She never understood real success." Harlan gave a small laugh, not unkind but dismissive. "Parents can be complicated. Just keep her in the background." I stood frozen just beyond the wall, my fingers tightening around the small clutch in my hand. Celeste's heels clicked away before I could find my voice. The door swung wider, and Verena Brooks appeared, speaking to a pair of photographers. "Make sure the older woman stays out of the important photos." She said, "We need clean lines and consistency." One of the photographers hesitated. "Which older woman?" "The mother of the bride," Verena replied, as if that explained everything. Adrian emerged next, adjusting his tie. His eyes skimmed the room until they landed on me. "Eudora," he said softly. "I did not know you were here already." "I just arrived." I answered. He looked over his shoulder. Hearing Celeste call for him, he gave me a strained smile. "She is overwhelmed." You know how she gets before big moments. She was not like this when moments were small, I said. Adrian opened his mouth, but Celeste waved him over again, sharper this time. He went without finishing the thought. I stepped back from the doorway and let the sounds of their voices fade behind me. My daughter's words echoed louder than any insult spoken to my face, and they stayed with me as the evening unfolded. A young server brushed past me so quickly he nearly dropped the tray in his hands. When he turned, his eyes widened. "Oh, sorry, ma'am. Here." Before I could respond, he pressed a full tray of water glasses into my hands. "Can you take this to the far table? We're short tonight." I held the tray carefully. "Of course," I said. He did not look twice before hurrying off. Silence. I had learned long ago, could open more doors than any argument. And at that moment, being mistaken for staff let me watch the room without anyone adjusting their behavior. Celeste stood near the head table. Perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect facade. She was speaking with Harlan again, her tone bright but strained. Across the room, Verena supervised the photographers as if she owned the building. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I shifted the tray to one hand and checked the screen. A string of corporate notifications lit up. Audit preparation meeting scheduled. Department performance flagged for review. Financial irregularities noted in guest services division. Guest services. Celeste's division. I tapped the alert, scanning the details. Under the Hale Hospitality Group structure, that division fell under one of my older subsidiaries, one Celeste had praised loudly for its forward-thinking leadership. She never knew whose leadership she was praising. I glanced back at her. Harlan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, but she stiffened beneath it, trying too hard not to look overwhelmed. Another message appeared. Final audit report will require owner approval. Owner. The word sat quietly beneath my thumb, invisible to the people bustling past me, invisible to my own daughter. I set the tray down on a side table and let out a slow breath. This wedding, this performance, this polished world Celeste clung to, it all existed on ground she did not realize I held. Someone called her name across the ballroom. She lifted her chin, smiling as though everything belonged to her. I was carrying an empty tray back toward the service station when two hotel staff members stepped into the alcove beside me, whispering sharply, "The payment still hasn't cleared." One murmured, "This is the third time we tried to run it." The Brooks family asked for another extension. The other replied, Management said we cannot delay again. I paused just long enough to hear the final words before they hurried off. A wedding this elaborate required deposits in the tens of thousands, and extensions were rarely granted. Something larger was unraveling beneath the surface. Near the staircase, Verena Brooks guided Celeste away from a cluster of guests. Her voice low, but pointed. "You must stay composed," Verena said. "After tonight, you will finally be part of a real family. Do not let small things distract you." Celeste gave a shaky nod. "I am trying. It is just a lot of pressure." "It is necessary pressure," Verena replied. "Presentation is everything." Adrian approached them. But Verena lifted a hand, blocking him. It was subtle, but enough to show her dominance in the moment. He lowered his gaze and stepped back. I slipped away from the crowd and toward the administrative wing. The door recognized my clearance. Unlocking with a quiet click, I sat at a workstation, typing steadily through the system I had helped build years ago. The Brooks account appeared immediately. The numbers told a story none of them had admitted aloud. A property in the historic district listed in foreclosure proceedings. Multiple loans overdue by more than 6 months. A business line of credit pushed beyond its limit. A personal account nearly empty. Their perfect world was a facade built on borrowed money and borrowed time. I closed the file, leaning back as the pieces connected themselves. Celeste believed she was marrying into stability, prestige, and legacy. What she was truly walking into was a collapsing structure held up by fear and appearances. I stood, smoothing my dress and letting the reality settle. My daughter had no idea the foundation beneath her was cracking, and she was seconds away from stepping straight through it. When the coordinator asked if I wanted to offer a short blessing before dinner, I agreed. It felt simple enough, one quiet moment for my daughter. Nothing more. I walked toward the microphone as conversations softened. Celeste stood beside Adrian, her smile tight, her shoulders rigid. Verena watched me with an expression far too eager, as if she were waiting for a mistake. I took a breath and lifted the mic. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate." The sound cut out mid-sentence. A sharp pop echoed from the speakers, followed by an uncomfortable hush, then a few scattered laughs. Someone near the bar whispered, "Maybe she should project more." I tried the mic again. Nothing. Celeste glanced at me, then quickly looked away, pretending to adjust her bracelet. Adrian shifted uneasily. But Verena stepped forward with a smooth, practiced tone. "Technical issues," she said. "It happens." Her eyes slid toward the DJ booth. The DJ avoided my gaze, tapping buttons he knew would not fix anything. I saw the slight tremor in his hand. Earlier, I had noticed Verena slip him a folded envelope, but I had not understood the purpose until now. She had paid to silence me. I lowered the useless microphone and handed it back to the coordinator. Before I could step away, the ballroom doors opened with a sharp thud. General Manager Marvin Chen strode toward me, his face serious, his voice firm enough to carry. "Ms. Hale," he said, "we have a problem with the payment for the wedding. The transaction has been declined again, and we need the owner's approval immediately." The guests fell silent. Even the DJ froze. Celeste stared at Marvin, confusion flickering across her face. Verena's confident expression cracked for the first time, a quick flash of panic breaking through her poise. I kept my hands still at my sides, steadying my breath as the room shifted around me. They had tried to silence me, and they had no idea who they were about to face. Marvin's voice carried through the ballroom with the same weight it held in my office tower boardrooms. "Ms. Hale, the payment has been declined again. We need your approval immediately." This time, no one mistook who he was speaking to. Celeste's face drained of color. Adrian took a step toward her, confused. Verena's hand tightened around her clutch until the leather strained. I straightened. No longer holding myself small, thank you. Marvin, I said, I will handle it. He gave a short nod. Yes, Miss Hale. A ripple of gasps rolled through the guests. Conversations died mid-sentence. Celeste whispered, Mom, what is happening? Before I answered, I lifted my phone and tapped the screen. Marvin connected it to the ballroom monitor without hesitation. The first image appeared Verena slipping an envelope into the DJ's hand. A few guests inhaled sharply. The next clip played the DJ muting my microphone as Verena watched with satisfaction. Verena's voice rose sharply. Turn that off. This is inappropriate. It is evidence. I replied, and it is not the only thing. The screen shifted to a summary of the Brooks family's finances, overdue loans, a property listed in foreclosure, multiple failed payments to the hotel. Adrian stared at the screen, horrified. Mother, you said everything was fine. She backed away slightly. This is a misunderstanding, a private matter. It became public when you involved my daughter, I said. And when you attempted to sabotage me, I lowered my phone and finally let the truth settle in the room. I own this hotel, I said calmly. I also own the Hospitality Corporation. And Celeste's entire department reports to one of my subsidiaries. Celeste covered her mouth, her eyes filling with disbelief. I turned to Verena. You will leave quietly, or I will pursue legal and corporate consequences. She hesitated only a second before walking out, her heels striking the floor in angry, uneven beats. Adrian watched her go, devastated. Celeste watched me, the truth finally standing in front of her. Celeste stood frozen as the last guests slipped out of the ballroom. The silence between us was heavier than the chaos that had come before. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. Mom, I did not know. I swear I did not know. I waited. She had run from truth for so long, I needed to see whether she could walk toward it now. Her breath shuddered. I was ashamed. She whispered, Not of you, not exactly. I was ashamed of where we came from. I thought if I distanced myself, people like Adrian's family would take me seriously. I kept my expression steady. Celeste pressed a hand to her eyes, mascara smearing across her skin. I knew how hard you worked, she said. I knew how many rooms you cleaned, how many double shifts you took just to keep us together. But whenever I thought about telling people, I panicked. I thought they would see me as small. I thought they would see me the way I used to see myself. She sank into a chair, her shoulders trembling. Adrian hovered nearby but did not interrupt. I used distance as a shield. She admitted, if I made you look quieter, simpler, less involved, then no one could point at me and say I did not belong here. I stepped closer, not to comfort her, but to show I was listening. Celeste, I said, love does not mean allowing disrespect. She nodded quickly, afraid to look up. And you forgot the ground you grew from. I continued, you forgot that the things you tried to hide were the very things that shaped your strength. Celeste wiped her face with both hands. I do not want to be this person anymore. She said, I want to fix what I broke. I believed she meant it, but wanting change and becoming changed were not the same. The mask she had clung to for years was finally slipping, leaving her raw and exposed in a way I had never seen. The morning after the wedding, I found Celeste sitting at my kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee. She looked smaller than she had the night before, as if the weight of every decision she had made had finally settled on her shoulders. I heard from work, she said quietly. There will be an internal review. Harlan said it is standard procedure. But her voice thinned. It is not standard when the owner is your mother. I pulled out a chair. What else did he say? She swallowed. They are removing me from the special projects team, and they want to evaluate my qualifications again. They said it is not a demotion, but it feels like one. So many years she had chased status. and now the image she built had begun to crack. Adrian appeared in the doorway, his tie loose, his expression tight. I spoke with my parents. He said, "It was not good." Celeste's grip on the mug tightened. Adrian exhaled. "My father admitted they were counting on your salary. They thought your promotion would stabilize their finances." His voice dropped. "They should have told us the truth." Celeste closed her eyes as if she could block out the words. "So they wanted me for my income," she whispered. "Not for who I am." "It was wrong," Adrian said, "and I told them that." He rested a hand on her shoulder, but the gesture did little to calm her trembling. I sat across from her. "What do you plan to do now? I do not know." She admitted, "I do not have the promotion I expected. I do not have the security I thought I was marrying into. Everything feels like it is falling apart." For the first time, she lifted her eyes to mine, not demanding, not defensive, just searching. "I am not asking for money," she said. "I do not deserve your help that way. But I am asking for guidance. I need to learn how to stand on my own. The right way." Her voice broke on the last word, but she did not look away. She was finally facing the consequences of choices she had outrun for years. The boardroom felt colder than usual the next morning, though no one dared comment on it. The executives sat in stiff rows, waiting for me to begin. Celeste was not present. She was never meant to be. I opened the folder in front of me. "We will proceed with the staffing changes," I said, "effective immediately." A few pens stopped mid-stroke. The Director of Human Resources cleared her throat. "To confirm, Ms. Hale, this includes the removal of Celeste Hale from her position." "It does." I signed the first document, immediate removal from her division. The second, termination of authority. The third, eligibility to return only at entry level, pending full retraining. A quiet finality settled over the table as each signature dried. By noon, the internal announcement went out. Every employee in the corporation received the notice. And with it, the revelation that Celeste had unknowingly worked beneath her own mother for years. It was humiliating, but it was earned. Outside corporate walls, consequences spread just as quickly. The Brooks family's debts reached the public record. Their property slipped into foreclosure. Verena's name appeared in articles about unpaid vendors and failed negotiations. Their social circle had no place left for them to hide. Adrian arrived at my home that evening with a small suitcase in one hand. "We are moving into a modest apartment," he said. "Celeste wants to rebuild without shortcuts. I want to support her through it." Later, I found a letter on my kitchen counter, her handwriting shaky but determined. "I am starting over. Mom," this time from the ground, "where you once stood for me." I folded the paper and held it for a long moment, not out of triumph, but out of something quieter. Foundations decide who stays standing. As I turned off the kitchen light, I whispered, "Rise well, Celeste." If you want more stories like this, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps these voices find their way home.